Numbers for today. As you see, I've got interest rates up right now, and that's what they are. They're up 7.3%, getting close to testing the all-time high. You know, I think 7.48 was the highest that it got on Mortgage News Daily, and we're getting close there again. So we'll continue watching this over the next couple weeks. Next week, September 20th. Is a really big day. That's the next Fed meeting, and we will get an indication at that meeting what direction the Fed is going to go, and that will have a huge impact on the rates as we see on this sheet here. So I'm going to swap over to PPAR. I'm going to go full screen for those of you on Zoom, and we'll talk through these numbers, and then I'll come back and show my face to you. So we've got the yellow bar highlighted. These are numbers that I pulled about 30 minutes ago on this September 12th, 2023. We had 232 homes hit the market in the last 7 days. Average price of $549,000, median of $460,000. Those feel like pretty good numbers. 549 and 460, I think is about right for average and median overall right now. So those are representative. Pending and under contract, 230 properties left the market. 232 came on, 230 left. 502 as the average price. That's significantly under the new listing price. And median price of 463. Average days on market, 38. That number keeps going up. And if you look right next to it in that next column, 38 is our 48-week average, is our almost 1 year average for days on market. So here we go. We find ourselves back in the place that we started. It's funny how 1 year later we're back in the place we started. It's almost like there's a cycle involved there. Sold properties, 173 properties sold in the last week. 502,000 average, 465,000 median. So you can see some consistency with the median numbers there. And average days on market of 34 for these total properties. Interesting that pendings are seeing a higher average days on market than solds. I wonder if solds is going to keep going up over the next few weeks, if pendings is, right? It's the way it works. Starts out at new listings, it moves to pendings, and it moves to solds. And so what we see in new listings will show up 2 to 3 weeks from now, or I guess on average 38 days from now as a pending, and then will show up 4 to 6 weeks even later than that as a sold. Unless it shows up as a withdrawn, expired, or canceled listing, which we had 75 leave the market for good as a stale property. Average days on market for those properties of 76 days on market. And you can see the average prices there. Total active El Paso County, 2,038 properties. That's a week over week change of 24 and a 4-week change of 114. So that number keeps climbing. And if you remember, if you've been paying attention in these conversations, that number has been climbing and will until sometime probably late October, early November, when that number will start coming down again, when total inventory will start going down as people leave the market and the amount of activity coming onto the market slows for the winter. So you may look at these numbers if you're looking at these and your analytical brain is going. We've got 232 properties on the market, 230 pending. So then how did we end up with an increase of 24? And it really has to do with what left the market as a sold or an expired or a canceled or withdrawn actually, versus what came on. It's not just new listings versus pending. So it's more complicated than that to look at this. But just looking at what is active on the market week over week, you know, that number has been consistently going up since, let's see, let's go back and find the last time it went down since we started tracking. So think it has been consistently going up since April 11th. So 5 months that number's been going up. We probably have another 6 or 8 weeks before that number starts coming down. Again, it's almost like there's a cycle involved here. All right, let's talk about what we're seeing in the analysis of these numbers. I'll make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Moving average differential analysis. So when we compare the last month to the almost 1 year average that we have now, so the 4 week against the 48 week, you can see that over the last month, and I'm looking here in column L that I've got highlighted now, over the last month there have been 10% more new listings than there have been over the last year, the average over the last year. That number has been going down. This number was as high as about 35% a couple of months ago and has been consistently coming down. We find ourselves at 10% now, or almost 11%. This is still a talking point, though, that you can take to your buyers and say, good news, there have been 11% more properties on the market over the last month. 11% more. You have one more house out of 10 to look at that is available on the market as a new listing. And prices, we're 2% up over the last month compared to the last year. On the average, about flat on the median. And you can see, these are the two numbers we're comparing here. So over the last month, the median price over the last month has been 476-ish, 477 over the last year. So about flat there. When you look over the last week, this number has been coming down. And you can see that, we were at 462, or 476 for the last month, and we're at 460 this week, right? You can see those two numbers there is what comes up with these numbers over here. So obviously the 1 week doesn't really show us a trend. It just shows us a data point, and we can see what's happening 1 week versus over the last month on that far right column. But you see the real trend happening when you look at the last month compared to the last year. And as we get close, we'll have something special for that 1 year mark, which I think is October 12th this year. Will be the 1 year mark for our trend that we've been tracking, and I'll have something special, a new arrangement, maybe a new analysis column, something like that we'll start tracking on the 1 year trend, and we'll actually drop off some data starting in 4 weeks, because I'm not going to keep that long trend going more than 1 year. Let's see, 10% less properties pending over the last month. Is that what that says? Yeah, so on average we've had 236 go pending over the last month, whereas our long average is 260 properties pending. And so buyer activity is dropping off, right? That's also a good talking point for your buyers. So Kylie, you can call your clients today and say, I know this is frustrating, we just fell out. Obviously that wasn't the right house, and we're excited to continue finding you the right house. I was looking at some numbers this morning, and it's interesting. There's been a 10% drop in buyer activity, which means you combine that with a 10% increase in listings on the market with a 10% drop in buyer activity, and you are going to have more buying power as a buyer in the market right now because of that. And so that's a talking point that you can take to your buyers right now. The combination of those two things, 10% more listings on the market, 10% less buyer activity. What else do we see here? Oh, overall everything is pretty flat. Days on market obviously is trending upwards, and we'll continue to see that. You know, it's funny, we have a 25% increase in the 1 week versus the 4 week, and a 25% decrease in the 4 week versus the long. So this number, this 27, since we had 34 today, I anticipate that number is going to keep going up. So we're going to see the days on market for our 4 week average going up over the next few weeks for sure. Yeah, other than that, the market is doing exactly what we thought it would. I'm going to go back to sharing my video. Market's doing what we thought it would this time of year. We're getting close to this 1 year mark on our trend. We're getting close to these inflection turnover points in the market, and that will be a big indicator of where we truly are when we can look year over year on these 1 year, on these 4 week averages. So it'll be interesting to see at the end of December, comparing that 4 week average to where or at the end of October, where we were the year before on the 4 week average. And then you get year over year average comparisons, which is cool. I get all nerdy. I didn't used to be a nerd about data, and I get all nerdy about it now. I know Kara can probably, you're okay with that. You used to nerd out on data, I'm sure. Yeah, you're muted though, we can't hear you. It's good, it's good. I'll speak for you. Any questions about this? So you got a couple talking points. I don't know that I see a great talking point to your seller clients right now. Other than the market is going to be going down for the next 3 to 6 months, and if you have to sell in the next 3 to 6 months, now is the best time to do it. There's no guarantee that the market is going to wake up really aggressively in the spring. There's a lot of economic factors that can impact what happens in the spring market, which normally drives prices up. There's a lot of economic factors. There's a lot of indicators, as we've been talking about, that there will be a recession. Whether it's starting now and it hasn't showed up in the numbers, or whether it starts 6 or 8 months from now or 18 months from now, there's a lot of indicators that we have to have some recessionary action in the economy before things can reset and get back to normal, whatever that means. And so with that, normally February, early March is when the market starts to wake up. Prices start to lift along with the crocuses through the snow, and that's like a normal seasonal trend that we've seen for many, many years, and yet there's no guarantee of that. There's no guarantee. So if a seller is looking ahead and says, I need to sell in the next 9 months because I have to be in Texas next May, and I'm flexible between now and then, I think there's a good argument that we know what your house will sell for now. We do not know what your house will sell for next spring. And we know that between now and next spring, the market is going to continue softening with what will likely be a little bit of a wake up in the spring, but we don't know. We don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. If you have a risk-averse seller, I'd get them on the market now and say, you're going to sell for more now than you will in a few months because the market is softening and we don't know what's going to happen next spring. So that may be the talking point for sellers using that argument. This data shows that we're in a softening period and will continue to be so for a while, till at least late February of next year. So what is that? That's 5 months from now, a little over 5 months. So we have 5 months of softening. If you have to sell between now and then, now's the best time to do it. Absolutely. Questions, comments from the gallery, from the room? I'll ask the question that I like to ask. Is this consistent with what you are seeing in the marketplace? Kyle,
Yeah,
raise
Chris,
his
I
hand.
was going to say, I was having this conversation yesterday. I called an expired listing on Friday and have had multiple follow-ups with them. And to be honest, I think with sellers, well, obviously it's like, it's spot on, right? Like, it's so painfully obvious that the market is slowing down, it's doing its seasonal thing, whatever. And they're trying to figure out like what to do because they've already moved. They put themselves in a really, really bad situation. And whoever their realtor was an absolute dunce and overpriced their house probably 10%, which is terrible because then it sat. Anyway, so what I ended up doing was having to like show them, I made a spreadsheet of holding costs to show them like, yeah, I mean, you can wait until next spring, but this is what the holding costs equal up to. And it's, $10,000 every 3 months. So I think it's not pressuring them. It's just like helping people visualize with data and with numbers and just facts so that people can then make decisions for what they need to do.
No, and you combine that, Kyle, with the fact that there is a lot of uncertainty in the economy right now. The indicators showed the recession coming, and yet they've shown I feel like the recession has always been 6 months away for quite a while now. The demand is strong, like the foundation of the market is strong, and yet these economic indicators and a recessionary action that is pending will quell demand. That is like one of the impacts that recession does, is it reduces demand. And so you combine those things, there is a lot of uncertainty. So holding cost is a certain thing. They know that $10,000 every 3 months is what it costs them to continue holding their home to sell it at a future date. With uncertainty on top of that of what it will sell for, and I think you could bring that conversation into the holding cost conversation and help them understand that these are certain numbers right now. We can list your home and sell it right now, and we know that. So I think that
let me clarify too, because I think the other minor detail is like, it's not that they're necessarily trying to wait till the spring, but it's like, it's the conversation of like, clearly your house has been listed for too much money, which is why it just sat for 120 days and you had 5 showings. So clearly it was like way overpriced, and it's showing like the correlation between where we need to list it and what happens if we list it too high and we chase it all winter, basically.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. Anybody else? Is this what you're seeing in the market? I want to hear.
Okay, so I have something for you, Chris.
Let's go, Kara.
So I think with all of the data that's coming, I think it's definitely helpful because right now we're kind of having an increase in people coming back that were at the table maybe 3 months ago. And I think the reason being is that 7%, even though it is still high, it's more palatable. It's, okay, we're here, we're at 7. It's like people are accepting it. And some people that walked away from us 3 months ago are having that conversation again.
Interesting.
So I'd be curious to see what happens with some of these numbers and how they fall into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the reality is, and we talked about this a lot at the meeting last Wednesday, the demand is so strong from a structural standpoint in our economy. The demand for housing is stronger than it has ever been. And I know what I'm saying when I say that. And for the next 3 or 4 years, the structural demand demographically will continue to go up before it starts to slowly go down. We are in for a wave of like 6 to 8 years of very high demand for housing. And that fact, combined with people getting used to a higher interest rate environment, combined with people getting educated on what it looks like to get into a home and anticipate a future refinance opportunity, all of those things will increase the amount of people willing to take the step into it because of necessity, because the demographics necessitate that people are buying houses right now. And again, broad economic factors can certainly impact that over the next year. And yet, when you look at the long, you guys make it through the next 6 to 9 months, maybe 12 months, and we have an amazing track to run on for the next decade in housing. Amazing track to run on. And it will involve educating our clients and how to win in this environment with interest rates, how to hack interest rates, how to buy your rate down, how to use seller funds to buy your rate down, how to stomach a higher payment for a season with an anticipation of a refinance opportunity. All of those things. These are all ways that you can educate people who have a high appetite for housing and yet can't understand how to make it work. And that's where the opportunity is. You educate them, people grow into the conversations you create around them. And so you create this conversation consistently, and they will grow into it, and they'll get to the point and they'll say, oh, I can actually lock right now at 6.75. Let's do it. That sounds awesome. I can stomach that, and then hopefully I can refinance down into the 4s in another year. So I love that. Kara, thank you for sharing that. All right, anybody else before we wrap up? Here it is, 5 to 9. So this is lead into lead gen, right? The next 2 hours, head down, working in your database, having conversations about the data we just talked about the market, about the opportunity you have to serve these people's needs in real estate. There's a high demand. So anybody want to share goals for the next couple hours? Conversations, appointments. Conversations and appointments. How many conversations? How many appointments?
At least 15 conversations and 5 appointments.
5 appointments.
Heck yeah.
I love that. 5 appointments set. We better hear that bell ringing.
All right, you got it.
15 conversations, 5 appointments. I love that. Anybody else? Conversations and appointments. That's where it'll show up. That's where you start the pipeline, right? Conversation that leads to an appointment, that leads to a contract, that leads to a closing.
I'm gonna go like 20 and 2.
20 and 2. I love it. 20 and 2. 2 appointments set. Anybody else? Somebody online? Appointments. How many appointments you gonna set in the next 2 hours? Put it out there. If you don't put it out there, it ain't gonna happen. I promise.
3 appointments. But in order to do that, I know I have to talk to at least 24 people and
Alright.
call about 240. Well, no, not actually 180 is to get to that.
180. So here we go. 180 dials.
That's right.
24 conversations. 3 appointments.
That's it.
Right?
Those are my
So
numbers.
then, what do we focus on? What are you focusing on? You're focusing on that next dial, right? You got to get those dials in. It's the one thing. You focus on the next dial, and you're closer to your goal.
Right.
That's how we do it. That's the power of focusing on one thing. Is that's what starts this chain reaction that ends up with you getting paid. And that's what I want. I want you guys to get paid. I know. Awesome. Well, y'all go make it a great day. 1 o'clock this afternoon on this line. Amy Jones will be here, and I don't know what we're talking about, but it's going to be good. For those of y'all who went out showing with Amy last Friday, she is a firecracker, and the amount of knowledge that we can attain from her is, we're probably just starting to scratch the surface. So look forward to seeing you guys back here at 1 o'clock. Go make it a great day. Focus on the dials, get your appointments, and we will see you later.
Thank you, Chris.
See ya.
Hi, Chris.
Did you walk with Amy last week?
Yeah, it was cool.
Okay.
Dude, that's great.
I feel like
Okay, I want to see if it worked.
that guy was crazy to allow that to happen.